Hey guys, I'm going to go over a really fun topic today. I want to talk about periodization. Big word for a lot of athletes that probably have no idea what I'm talking about, because I would have not had any idea in high school and probably most of college until I did some research myself. But periodization is kind of how coaches plan out the year or the season. And I think it's really important to understand the basics of periodization, or else you're kind of throwing stuff at the wall and hoping it sticks kind of thing with your training programs. So this video is definitely a little bit more for coaches than for athletes, but I think everybody can benefit from a lot of the information in this video. So for those that don't know me, my name's Fallon Headings. I'm a physical therapist and a track and field coach. So let's start talking about periodization. So your periodization chart can be broken down into 3 sections. You're gonna have your microcycle, which is usually a week, and your goals for the week. You're gonna have your mesocycle, which is usually a month, or I make it into a block. So sometimes my blocks are 4 weeks, sometimes they're 6 weeks, it just depends. And then your macrocycle, which is your year or your season. So I'm gonna show you guys on my computer my periodization chart for my athletes. So you can see it's really freaking confusing looking, but it has, the yellow section has all our meets. So the yellow section has every week on it, and kind of our goals for that microcycle. So for the first 8 weeks, I just have preseason training on there. Then I go into a Haverford meet, then we have winter break training, then I put all the meets up top. So then under that, I have our training phases. So I have strength, I have endurance, I have technical, and then I have speed. And I put those into different categories. So depending on what mesocycle we're in or what block we're in, my strength is in the beginning in preseason, it's a hypertrophy phase. Whereas in competition season, it's more in a power conversion phase. Then with endurance, with my beginning mesocycles in preseason, it's in a general endurance phase. Then we get more into a specific endurance, and then we get more into speed endurance. For technique, that one pretty much stays the same across the board, because I will individualize that to my athletes. So if we have a lot of new athletes that year or beginner athletes, then we're doing a lot more slow, non-speed technique drills, and then we're slowly pulling into those speed technique drills at the end. That all depends on the age and the training age of the athlete. With speed, in the preseason, in our beginning mesocycles, I'm usually doing a lot of resisted runs and acceleration, because if you can't build speed if you haven't taught acceleration. So you have to really teach acceleration in the fall. Then we get into Vmax, your velocity your maximum velocity. That's during winter break training, I start to get into that, and then competition season. And then during my peaking phase, I'm getting into assisted runs, so over speed. So that's kind of just the down and dirty of how I split up my training blocks and my microcycles, and how I figure out the goals that I went over in that video of what's your goal of your practice, what's your goal of your week, what's your goal of your season. So depending on your goals, that determines what you're going to work on in that microcycle and that mesocycle, to get your macrocycle to be as best as it can be. So like example, preseason, my endurance days are more general endurance, whereas now that it's April, I'm working on speed endurance. Like they have quick stuff. So right now my athletes are doing 200s, or they have a 300 workout, and my girls are supposed to be hitting 44 seconds. In the fall, for their 300s, they were hitting 51 to 53 seconds. So it's a big difference in the time. But if I didn't teach them speed, me asking them to hit a 44 in practice, they wouldn't be able to do. So you have to start with the general endurance and build into the speed endurance. You can't just start at the speed endurance and expect them to be successful, or else you're going to have a lot of athletes that are very frustrated and a lot of coaches that are very frustrated. So you always want to make sure you're not skipping steps. And I explain that to my athletes. Anybody who misses preseason training or comes in late, I say it's really important to get in your general endurance stuff during winter break. And it's really important to not lose what we worked on in preseason during your winter break. That's my biggest dread, is everything that we worked on for 2 months, then they go home for winter break and they don't do anything but eat open presents and eat food, and they lose everything that they train for. So it's kind of losing that whole entire base and then trying to jump into competition season. And that's why their speed endurance workouts are so hard, because they don't have that speed behind them. So that's kind of the very basics and down and dirty of periodization. If you have a specific question about a training program and where you should be putting your general endurance versus your hypertrophy versus your assisted runs and all that stuff, put it in the comment section and I'll get back to you. And send this out to a lot of coaches. I know a lot of high school coaches don't really go over periodization, and I know periodization is a lot harder with the high school group, because if you only have them for that 3-month period, your macro cycle is a lot smaller than mine. My macro cycle is from freaking October to May. So I have a lot longer of a time to build all my phases in, whereas high school coaches have a lot harder time. So let me know if you have questions, subscribe to my page, and send this out to all the coaches that you know. Thanks. Bye.